Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to be making something called biscuit puddings. Now the biscuit is something like this, which is a Bourbon biscuit, and that's a chocolate flavoured biscuit with a chocolate cream inside. Now I saw a recipe in a Gary Rhodes book, Step by Step Cooking I think, for this pudding, or what he calls a pudding. It's more like a dessert really. And what it is 2 layers of a biscuit, then inside that is 2 layers of chocolate brownie, and inside that is a layer of chocolate ganache. So you'll have sort of 5 layers in all. He also then drizzles over some coffee syrup, which I'm not going to do. I don't like coffee, and I will be putting coffee in the brownies, and I think the biscuit texture will give that little bit of crunch. I don't want to soften that crunch. Now for the pastry, I'm going to cut it out about this size compared to this size for a Bourbon biscuit. Now this is 10 centimeters, 4 inches by about 2¼ inches. 2½, 6 centimeters would be better, but I have this ready and it will allow me to make the pattern on the pastry after I've rolled it out, so that's what I'm going to use. So we'll get on with the pastry, and for that the ingredients are 115 grams of butter, 45 grams of cocoa powder, 275 grams of self-raising flour, and I put a pinch of salt in there as well, 115 grams of caster sugar, 1 medium egg which I've lightly beaten, and in here I have 8 teaspoons of milk, and I'm going to add enough of that to make the dough a little bit soft. So we start off by putting our butter into the mixing bowl, and then we're going to cream that butter together with the sugar, until it's all creamed together and a little bit fluffy. So that's the butter creamed, and then what I'm going to do is pour in the egg, and onto that egg I'm going to sift the cocoa powder and the flour. So first of all I'll put the cocoa powder in with the flour, and I'll give it a bit of a stir around. And of course there's the pinch of salt already in the flour. So then we'll sift that in. And cocoa powder tends to clump, which is why we have to sift it. Okay, and then we're going to mix that in and we will add as much of the 6 to 8 tablespoons of milk teaspoons of milk as we need to make the dough all come together nicely. Now this dough, I think, is soft enough, but it hasn't come together, so I'm going to pull it together by hand. As you can see, it comes together quite easily. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to chill this in the fridge for 20 minutes, and while we're chilling it in the fridge I'm going to get on and make the chocolate brownies, and I'll give you the ingredients for that as we do them. Okay, so I'm ready to make our brownie mixture. Now I've lined 2 baking trays with parchment paper, and I'm going to pour the brownie mixture hopefully to a thickness of about 1/2 inch, 1 centimetre or something like that. Now the first thing I'm going to do is to put the melted butter into a bowl, and that is 175 grams of melted butter, and I'm going to pour in 45 grams of cocoa powder. Now Gary Rhodes' recipe called for much more cocoa powder than that, but I think that because we're going to have the ganache and we're going to have chocolate in our cookie mixture as well, 45 grams is ample. I'm going to mix those together. And just set them aside. And then what I also have here is 350 grams of caster sugar and 275 grams of self-raising flour. I have 3 medium eggs, that would be large in the USA. I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of strong coffee. I don't like coffee at all, so that's just instant coffee with a little bit of water in it. I may not like these desserts because of that coffee flavour. 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. So the next thing to do is to whisk our eggs with the sugar until they're nice and fluffy and thick. Okay, so that's the eggs whisked. Then we're going to add our butter and cocoa powder. And just scrape down our bowl to get it all out. And then I'm going to add in the vanilla, two tablespoons of coffee, strong coffee. Going to give that a bit of a whisk. Then I'm going to stir in our flour. And we just stir it in until it's all combined. And then I'm going to put it into one baking tray first and see how much I have left over after I've spread it out to about ½ an inch thick. I don't know whether I can fill another complete baking tray, but I want to get about 16 of my biscuits out of this mixture if I can, and this tray will give me about 12, so I may have to use a smaller tray for the rest of the batter, but that's fine. I'm going to spread this right into the corners. So I'm going to bake this in the oven for 7 minutes. Then I'm going to take it out and allow it to cool. I will also bake a smaller one so I get the extra cookies that I need, and then I'll be back with you and we'll go on to the next step. Okay, so I have the brownies out of the oven and cooling down, and now I'm going to roll the pastry out. Now, I've actually split the pastry in half and left half of it in the fridge. I've floured my work surface and I'm going to roll this out into as much of an oblong as I can, about 3 millimeters thick. And it doesn't really matter if it breaks a little bit. I'm just going to measure this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's almost as much as we need, because I'm only going to get 16 out of this. So what I'm going to do is to make some indentations. Like that, and then just with a knife I'm going to run along them, and then I'm going to pick each one up and put it onto a baking tray. So having rolled them out, I'm actually going to now, just with a skewer, put some holes in them. To make them look a bit more like Bourbon biscuits. So into the oven for 10 minutes. So I have the cookies out of the oven and they're cooling down. I'll just show you those. And I've cut our brownies into oblongs slightly smaller than the cookies. I'm just heating some cream. That's 250 millilitres of cream and 230 grams of dark chocolate. And I'm going to pour the cream into the dark chocolate and stir it until it dissolves, and we'll have a ganache. And then as it cools down it will thicken, and I'll whip it a little bit to make it a little bit fluffy. Then we'll assemble our desserts. Okay, so I'm back with you now, and our biscuits are cooked and cooled. I have cut our brownies into oblongs, just a little bit shorter, a little bit smaller than the biscuits, and I have made the ganache, which was, as I said earlier, 230 grams of chocolate and 250 millilitres of double cream, which I melted and poured into the, which I heated, not to boiling but almost to boiling, poured into the chocolate and stirred it, and I've whipped it a little bit. What I've also done is taken some raspberry jam, a couple of tablespoons of raspberry jam, and what I've done with each piece of brownie is just to smear some jam on one side of it, like that. And then I take a cookie and place the brownie onto the cookie like that, and put that to one side. And then what I do is I take one brownie and cookie half, and I put some of the ganache on. I want it to be about 1/4 of an inch thick probably, and fairly even all over. A decent amount you want, really. Then you take another brownie and cookie, place it on top, and there you have your dessert. So I'm going to carry on doing those, but that's it for today. I'm not going to break into them yet. I want to finish what I'm doing, but I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video and click to subscribe to the YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner up here there'll be an eye that if you click on you can get to the recipe, and I'll also put a link below the video so that you can get to the recipe as well. So that's it for today. I will be back with you again in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.